Now, if we could we'd just have a short a panel session. So if I could invite Dr. Dexter back up and Gareth, if you could join the panel, and Matt as well, if Matt's still in the room, that's great. And what I'd like to invite is we'll have a short session now, and I'd like to invite questions that are specific to the presentations that you've heard. If you've got any general questions, then we're going to have a session a bit later on where we can hopefully cover those. So maybe if I can start off by abusing my position as chair and asking actually not a member of the panel, but Professor Buckley for his comment on a couple of things that were raised by in Matt's talk about what's going on in Australia. I was quite interested that they're campaigning for more corneal donation. So I wondered what the position is here in terms of the UK in terms of more corneal donation. And the second point was Matt raised this treatment C3 minus. C3, yeah. Minus R. I wonder whether he could comment on that at all. So if you're able to, just.
Well, we certainly don't have, in this country, we don't have as many corneas as we could use. The situation is better than it was a few years ago when there was some adverse publicity about donation as a whole, but it's still not at an ideal pitch, and we do have the scenario in which people are happy to give any other part of their body, but they draw the line at their eyes. I'm sure it's a deeply emotional reaction, not a logical one, but an emotional reaction. So the situation is not ideal, but the fact is that the NHS needs are catered for, although the waiting times would be shorter if more corneas were available. It would also be good to have more corneas available for experimental procedures and research, but that unfortunately isn't the case. So the situation isn't desperate, but it's not ideal. And I'm afraid I didn't understand the second question at all. Would you enlighten me?
Oh, the treatment I was talking about, it's actually something I just heard about the other day from home about this, and it's looking at sort of slowing the progression of keratoconus. I think that's the main issue.
Yes.
And you certainly know a lot more.
No, I can't comment on that at all. I think it's a fantastic idea that by some nutritional or metabolic means that it's possible to provide something that's deficient or an excess of something that's required for the metabolism of the cornea. It sounds great, but I'm completely ignorant of it, I'm afraid. So, sorry about that.
Thank you very much. Now, if there are any questions that are specific to the presentations that we've had.
Matt, I'd like to ask you a question. Could you tell me how the members are recruited in Melbourne for the Keratoconus Australia group?
Basically, the more exposure we get, the more things like our website, with that getting better, with our electronic newsletter going out, with more optometrists being aware of us, our seminars, what we're doing, getting more optometrists to these events through the continuing education points. Obviously, that's the main drive for membership. I mean, we don't actually go out and look for members.
Okay,
we get them easily.
I mean, I was quite surprised because I'm from Australia, from Melbourne, and I had keratoconus for 10 years there, and I hadn't heard of anything from keratoconus from optometrists, ophthalmologists, eye and ear hospital, nothing.
Well, so, this is the big thing that we're trying to ensure doesn't happen in the future. I mean, we've only been around for 5 years, and it's only been in the last couple of years that we've really sort of started going, building the membership right up. So I think now, if you went to an optometrist in Melbourne, they would be aware of us. I'd like to hope they are.
Okay, thank you.
Down the front, Mark.
This is some information, and it's related to Gareth. Gareth said, no one knows what we need no more than us. okay at work. And I spoke a couple of years ago at the last conference. At the time, I was going through access to work, and I now have a CCTV where I can put piece of paper underneath this CCTV and change the colours to, my colours are orange on black. I know it sounds absolutely disgusting, and when people walk in, they look at my screen and think, oh, what are you looking at? But it's brilliant. But the most important thing about that is that I had the bottle to tell my employers I really needed the equipment, and I've got it. And the second point is that Site Village is happening in Birmingham, and it's going on from about the 20th of July in a few weeks' time. It's on the Hagley Road at the Masonic Rooms, I think, and it's a must. If anybody is struggling, do go to Site Village. It's an exhibition of the companies. They come to Birmingham, and you can go around and try out all this fantastic equipment. And if you need it, you can then apply to Access to Work and get it for yourselves. And it's absolutely fantastic. So please go and try. And if you're free, go to Site Village because it's well worth it.
I think there's one thing I'd add to that. I stayed for lunch. What about small companies? The cost for them of actually getting the equipment we need is obviously going to be a lot more than the company I work for. Again, access to work, they can work wonders in terms of funding the equipment that you actually need. Even if it's something like a computer monitor, it can be difficult for a small business, but through Access to Work, funding is available. So the help is out there. It's a case of finding it. The corporate's really good at doing that. More information becoming available. I understand that Access to Work, if you're going to a new job, Access to Work will pay for the full amount. If you're already in existing employment, they will fund a lot of it, and then it becomes a property of that company after a certain period.
Thanks, Gareth. Do we have any more questions this session? Just over on the left.
Dr. Dexter, just a quick question. The people involved in your study, did a lot of them already have pre-existing sort of allergic symptoms like eczema, dermatitis, allergies?
One of them had eczema of the eyelids, definitely. I'm just mentally going through it. One or two had hay fever, one had sinusitis. Although I think that was the hay fever. I think the hay fever sinusitis was the same patient. So I would say about four. I'd say about four. That's without looking at the case notes. But yes, but it did come out.
Mike, please. One down the front
there. Dr. Dexter, you say that you're going to do some more work on this. So are you still looking for more volunteers?
Yes, I will. Yes, I am. I'm looking for more volunteers. I'm also planning, and I think it's something which I should have done earlier, but I'm going to, I think, get it through an ethics committee as well. Because I think, especially with this going to be a large number of patients. But yes.
And where are you actually based?
Maida Vale, London. Yes, that's where I'm seeing patients anyway. It's very near the tube station.
Any more questions or comments? Just one at the back there, Mark.
Hello. I hope this is a daft question. Am I right in thinking that the acupuncture needle points, whatever the correct term for them is, are, if not exactly the same, closely allied to the shiatsu pressure points? And if so, is it possible that if we prove acupuncture is effective, then shiatsu techniques on allied points may also be? And is there a possibility that this could be a self-help mechanism in between needle treatments?
The short answer is yes. The points are the same. You tend to find there's a thing called acupressure, which is shiatsu really. Acupuncture is more powerful because it's a bigger impulse. But yes, I'm sure it would be useful. That's why I quite like these studs things, because it's also a thing that patients can do themselves. As one lady, Sorry?
I was just thinking that obviously you wouldn't want to try sticking your needles into yourself in between visits, but you can clearly massage your own hands.
Yeah, yes, of course, yes.
Any more questions or comments to our panellists?
It's just really to Gareth. Sorry, Zoe. I thought a lot of the points that you made about how to get through your working day and your that you diarise and sort of task lists were really helpful, and I was trying to scribble things down. I'm happy to hear that there may be a DVD available at the end at some point, but even if a pamphlet could be produced or something like that, I think it would be so helpful. I'm being the mother again, but I'd love to go to my teenage son and say, you know, here's a whole lot of things that's going to help you clear your desk, the points that you made about the timer. There was a lot of things there that were very constructive, and I just wish my shorthand was better because I would have written them down. And
I've got the computer disc, so I didn't know how, if John managed to make some of the adjustments I recommended to him, because I was a bit late in sending it to him. So I do have a disc, so I could actually pass that on to you. I'm quite happy for it to put it on my own website and put a link to it through the forum as well.
better copyright it.
If I can just add, I mean, we aim to produce a DVD of today's proceedings, but also where there have been presentations such as Gareth's, then we'll try and make those available through the website. If people would like to get hold of copies, but they haven't got access to our website, we can make available hard copies as well. And we've also got a copy of Mr. Dart's presentation this morning, which we will make available too. So the aim is to make as much information that's been provided here, make that available to everybody in whatever format is the most accessible. So if there are no other questions on... Oh, we've got one more. We'll take one more on this panel before we move on.
We over lunchtime, a number of us were talking excuse me, about Mr. Dart's presentation and thought the options that were listed in terms of long-term treatment was very helpful. And if his presentation were to be on the site, a sort of summative form of that in a sort of two sides might really be very, very useful, I think.
Yes, well, we managed to get a copy of it before he nipped off, but we might have to put a health warning on it before we available to view for everyone.
I can actually add, so on the Keratoconus Australia website, there's just recently added, there's a list of about 45 questions to ask your ophthalmologist before having the graft, or if you're interested in the graft, what's involved.
Okay, at this point I'd like to say thanks to our the first stage of our afternoon, our three panellists for their presentations, and Gareth for his this morning.